Good afternoon, one and all. We'll start this interaction with our guest today, Professor Shankar. Welcome, Professor Shankar. Uh, we have started this program a few months back, and the idea is that we will interact with the faculty colleagues in IIT Madras and get their views on the teaching learning process. And we are all uploading these interactions in a website. So those who are probably watching this at a later point for their information, I will just briefly introduce today's guest, Professor Shankar. Professor Shankar received his BE degree in mechanical engineering from Motilal Nehru Regional Engineering College, Allahabad, India, and subsequently he moved to Texas A&M University for his MS and PhD degree. He joined the department in the year 2006 when it was started and contributed to establishing the automotive engineering program. He is currently coordinating a various e-mobility initiative at IIT Madras. He pursues his research in the broad area of vehicle dynamics and control with a specific focus on active vehicle safety. His academic contributions have been recognized with the Srimati Mati Annapurna Gurunath Award for Excellence in Teaching and the Young Faculty Recognition Award at IIT Madras and the Young Engineering Award from the Indian National Academy of Engineering. He has been elected as a Fellow of the American Society of Mechanical Engineers in 2024. So with this brief introduction, again, welcome, Shankar.
Thank you, Prasad. Thank you, Rupesh, for inviting me.
So, see, basically, as I said, the idea is to share the views. So let us start with that question itself. According to you, what is teaching?
All right. Okay. So I think greetings, everyone. And once again, I begin by thanking Rupesh and Prasad for inviting me and having this interaction. Of course, at the outset, I should say this is more like an interaction, right? So, there is no unique answer here. So, essentially, I'm going to share my viewpoints. I request other colleagues who are all good teachers, and like they have their own philosophies to also pitch in with their thoughts so that we can learn from each other. I acknowledge my own teachers, like at the beginning of this interaction, I'm here because of them. And I think our institute also has fantastic teachers. I think I begin with acknowledging all of them. So I think the first question, if I were to share my view on what is teaching, right? And in a broad sense, what I feel should be the philosophy of teaching is that I believe that we should enjoy teaching, right? Teaching can only be experienced, right? Very difficult to explain what it is in words, right? But I think when we share what we know with students and they understand, right? I believe the joy which both of us experience is something which has to be perceived. And I believe teaching is that process, right, where we by which we get there. And broadly, the philosophy that I follow is that I teach what I understand or what I think I understand, and in that process, have fun. Have an enjoyable experience. That's when I will do a good job, right? And in that process, also ensure that all students learn. It's important that particularly as teachers and also teachers at a premier institution like IIT Madras, I believe it's a duty, to take everyone along, right, in any particular course or program. So I think we have to ensure that all students learn. Broadly, that's what I will state as my overall thought process of philosophy.
Okay, great. So, as you rightly said, I mean, we all learn how to teach as we go in that path. That is absolutely correct. But then, when you look back from the beginning of your career and now, are there points where you think this is not the way that I need to teach, or do you have any kind of course correction consciously you have done? If so, what are those turning points?
Yeah, I think so. If particularly with respect to the methodology, right? So maybe that's because that's how most of us have been, or what we have been exposed to, right? It's the traditional method, right? So there is a teacher comes, writes on the board, like, or now project slides and so on, right? And it's pretty much a one-way conversation, right? So of course there is some interaction in the form of Q&A, but for the most part, the teacher is the person who essentially talks and interacts in the classroom, and the students follow, right? But I think thanks to the opportunities that were available in an institute, particularly uh, through I think industry programs, right? So what I could do is that, like, I started practicing this flipped classroom mode, right? So I think this was at least someone's microphone is unmuted. No? Yeah. So I think this was at least like introduced in the very first. I think that there was one event, Prasad, with Dr. Jeff Freud came, right? So
yeah.
The teachers workshop, right? So I think in 2010 or 2011, right?
Somewhere in 2009 or.
Yeah, I think we did it together when it first got introduced, right? So I think that Dr. Freud introduced this flipped classroom, right? So of course, thanks to the industry programs, I got opportunities to try out this flipped classroom, and I believe that's an excellent mechanism where we either record videos or give content ahead of time to students, and they come to class after having looked at it, and the class time is utilized for going through the main points of that particular lecture, right? And the interaction is more on discussions, right? And answering Q&A, and broadly becomes a two-way conversation. I think that's something which I believe I have changed over the years, and I really love that mechanism.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear, because as you rightly said, the real learning happens through dialogues. I mean, unless teacher starts that dialogue instead of delivering the class, I completely agree. So in that line, suppose if I ask you that, have you observed also some of the changes in the learner characteristics over the period of time? Because every semester looks like a new generation is coming to the campus. So how do you feel?
Yes. So now I think students are very clear in their thought process, right? So I think they are also like I think having multiple options. See, for example, in a few of my courses, right? So now even like attendance is not, I would say attendance is mandatory, but still, like the official policy is that, like, even if you have less than 75, it doesn't hinder a student from not completing the course, right? So what has happened is that, like, few of us have recorded all our courses in NPTEL and so on, right? We have already published it. And when we teach that content, I think students are also very clear, right? So that is, look, your content is on YouTube. I would watch them, and then I would come and write, and I get whatever grade I get, right? So I'm just giving that as an example to convey that, like, I think they are very clear in their thought process, right? And I believe we need to respect them. I think we should treat them as adults, right? Of course, sometimes we need to intervene, like when things are going out of control.
Right.
But I think we should, by and large, the average student knows what he or she wants to do. And in a typical undergraduate curriculum, it is not necessary that they like all the core courses, right? So they may like a few, they may not, they may have to do the rest because they need to get the degree. I think if we acknowledge those aspects, I think we can also be happy in our teaching, right? We acknowledge them, and then, like, we enable students the flexibility to learn in multiple modes, not necessarily always by coming to class. So that is my thought process. I'm sure colleagues here and otherwise will have multiple.
I mean, so the beauty is that people have different orthogonal views also, but that's perfectly.
Yeah. And Yeah. And this is coming up from a person who was very strict in attendance. I have changed my thought process over the past several years.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a change that you probably find from yourself over a period of time. That okay,
Yeah.
great. So Shankar, one of the things that people talk about this flipped class is
Mm.
we give a video to watch, and the students come without watching. Have you come across such kind of
Oh,
scenario?
yeah. So I think that's where the initial, like 15, 20 minutes are crucial, right? So we still need to, I feel we still need to recap the main points. Like a flipped classroom lecture doesn't mean, in my opinion, that the 50 minutes, I'm taking 50 minutes as an average class duration, right? So doesn't mean that the 50 minutes have to be entirely used in discussions, right? I would still want to spend the initial 15-20 minutes highlighting the important points, right, of what happened in that lecture. Then go for discussions, right? So,
Okay. And does that really help?
yeah, it really helps. It certainly helps.
Great. So, suppose if you again look back and then see some of the things that you tried in your classroom which actually backfired in,
Okay.
in that kind of just for sharing to colleagues.
Yeah. So, of course, I would share two lighter events, like, so, yeah. Because before coming to IIT, I had the opportunity to teach in the US for 2 years, right? And I was just wrapping up my PhD.
Okay.
So I could observe what to say, I think a cultural change, right? So there, I tried out two things. I tried to replicate here, and that failed, right? First is, forming teams of 3 or 4 students in a lecture class, not lab class.
Okay.
A lecture class, even during a lecture course, right? A theory course, what we call as a theory course, right? Having teams of 3 or 4 people, per team, and making them work together, even doing in-class work together, and even assignments together, except exams, right? And learning together, right?
Yeah.
That is something I tried, and I used a strategy in that. What I did was that, like, at the beginning of the semester, I got the CGPA list.
Okay.
Right? Although to me, CGPA, of course, it's not a real indicator of a person's capability, but that's the metric we have, right? So I sorted into 4 quarters. And from each quarter, picked one student.
Okay.
And that is one team, right?
Okay.
So that there's a distribution, right? So, and I thought peer learning would help, and that really helped in the US.
Okay.
Here, I tried it for a few years. Due to whatever reason, it didn't click. It sort of like worked out in a few cases, but not majorly. And
so, what was the indicator that tells you that it was not working?
So when I discussed with students, I think I got quite a few feedback saying that the team was not meeting. People were not comfortable to talk to each other, because maybe that's because I formed the teams, right? Perhaps if I left themselves to form teams, like, maybe it may have worked. But then there was a thought process in my mind, like I wanted to take everyone along. So I chose one member from each quarter, right, according to the CG.
But that's what's also suggested in the literature. Like that's how teams are supposed to be formed.
Yeah. So I tried that, right? So I tried for a few years. It worked in a few cases. Okay. And the second thing which I tried, once again, it was a very interesting, I would say, cultural difference, right? Is that, like, I tell them that by and large, of course, all of us can make mistakes in class. But to essentially retain interest, what I used to do was that I purposefully used to make mistakes, right? Okay. And I tell that if you catch it, you get a bonus point, right? So which you can make up for a bad test or a missed homework and so on, right? So I will add to that 100 marks, which can help in getting a better grade, right? This worked very well in the US, right? In India, it was not taken up.
Okay.
Right? The students told we don't want it, right? Yeah. So I think I tried it, what to say, multiple years, and almost all the batches in which I tried it, they told we don't want this mechanism.
So I think here they don't expect us to make any mistakes. We are
maybe. Yeah, but I think I got a variety of reasons, but then, like, I think it didn't work out. I dropped those 2 things.
That's interesting. So I mean, there are like these cultural variations, which actually, there are like sometimes it acts as boon, sometimes it's like a very prohibitory kind of thing. Some of these techniques which are actually designed in Western countries, which I think many teachers are finding difficult to suddenly implement. Right. So, do you have anything that is like you tried your own, and then you say that okay, it's not there in the literature, but I find it which is very conducive in the atmosphere, Indian classes or anything that sort of thing, something.
So of course, to be very honest, to be very frank, I hardly looked at the literature
Okay.
on teaching, right?
Right.
So
Right.
most of the things I tried intuitively,
Okay. Okay.
even these things. So from because I was teaching large classes in the US, right,
Mhm.
20 plus students. So
Mhm.
that's how I have all these team things,
Okay. Okay.
and having their attention and so on,
Mhm.
right? So I think it was more intuitive, so even till today, I feel teaching should be that, right? So
But don't you think so? So, like as you said, because incidentally talks about, is it a good practice for a teacher to have a research mind about teaching?
oh, of course, yes.
It is
So
more like so. This is what one.
yeah, I think we can certainly have that. I think we should have diverse approaches, but I'm only stating that I follow an intuitive approach,
Okay.
right? So, so I think we should have diversity here also, right? So I think if somebody is willing to look at research and follow a structured way of
Mhm.
approaching it, of course, it should be trained. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It's just that I have not done that,
Right. 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 So the large classroom coming to the, so you have the experience of large classroom in US, right? So here, what was the typical class size?
Typically in engineering design, it goes to 80, 85. So.
Okay. Okay. So have you used the help of teaching assistants, and do you have any?
So typically the lectures I till date I handle it,
Okay.
right? So despite the class size, right, I try to, because I really enjoy interacting with them, right, in the classrooms. So the way I take the help of TAs is what to say, if there is a tutorial session, like engage them in the problem solving sessions,
Mm-hmm.
right? The homework sessions, and encouraging students to come and talk to the TAs, right? And even to my TAs, predominantly we use our research scholars as
Right.
TAs.
Right.
So I only give them broad expectations and pointers on uh, assignments or lab sessions and so on, right? And I tell them I'm empowering you to follow your own method,
Okay.
because they will become future teachers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, correct. So most likely. So I tell them you develop your own style,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we will discuss if something is not working out, right?
Mm-hmm.
And most importantly, evaluation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if we let's say if you have 10 experiments in a lab class, right, and you utilize one TA per experiment, right? So it is going to be very what to say, unlikely that everyone will grade in the same way, right? There's going to be variability. But I tell them as long as you're consistent,
Mm-hmm.
evaluating all students performing your experiment or doing your homework, don't worry, because anyway we do relative grading, right? Things
Mm-hmm.
will balance out at the end, right? And
Yeah.
I think that has also been working out well.
Okay.
So after the initial what to say interactions, I give them freedom, right? I don't intervene too much with the TAs.
Okay. Okay.
They come back if they face any issues. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So, normally when we talk about teaching learning, everybody say that teacher should have a good rapport with the students. So, do you have any techniques or any methods that you use to establish this student-teacher relation outside classroom, inside classroom? Anything that you want to share?
Uh, so I believe being honest really helps,
Mm.
right? So whenever I teach a batch in the very first class, I sort of like tell them very clearly this is what my expectations are,
Mm.
and this is what their expectations could be,
Mm.
right? So and whatever feedback I get, I tell them I am open to course corrections, right?
Okay.
If required, right?
Mm.
And I lay down what I expect, right? So for example, even till today,
Mm.
I tell my students, don't take out your cell phones during my class, right? So at least during my class hours, either don't bring it or keep it inside.
I
Right?
see.
I
Okay.
tell them you can walk in and walk out anytime you want.
Mm.
You can lie down on the bench and sleep.
Mm.
So I have no problems, right?
Okay.
So, but only thumbing through a cell phone is something which I do not request them. I request them not to do, right?
Mm.
And over the years, I have felt that that style works out very well,
Okay.
rather than a disciplinary approach.
Mm. Mm.
That is pointing them out
Mm.
or shouting at anybody
Okay.
or making them feel bad, or making them go out of the classroom, right?
Okay.
Compared to that, I think this sort of a honest interaction at the very beginning.
So you're saying that a teacher share the expectation from the beginning about
Beginning itself,
the not only about the content but also about the behaviors.
behavior, exactly, right? And will it be done 100% of the time? Very unlikely,
Right.
right?
Right.
And whenever
So,
I think, yeah, whenever I think, let's say, what to say, somebody does not follow it. Once again, I try not to pick on them, right? Sort of like we try to crack a joke, and then make them indirectly realize, that should not be done, right? So, and I make the class realize that such things lead to a significant perturbation in the class, and that affects learning. I think over a period of time, I think they also start cooperating. I think that's a better sustainable strategy in my opinion.
Okay. Okay. So, see, as you yourself told that you have NPTEL lectures, right? A lot of online resources. So, how do you see this overall development in the online domain and having a classroom with a limited time bound period kind of a class? Where are we heading? Like, see, I mean, when we were all students, this was not the situation at all, right? So now on one side, we have this abundance of information available, but on the other side, we still go to a classroom with a 15 minutes lecture module or interaction. So what would you see as a future way of taking this forward? Is there a way that you see a different approach?
Absolutely. I think to begin with, I think I would really appreciate and be thankful for our NPTEL team. I think through that NPTEL and SWAYAM platform, I think all of us have been able to share what we know, right, with so many students outside, right? I would say learners outside, right? So yeah, and I think it's benefiting them. I'm still a strong proponent that we should go in person and teach our students, right? I think that should still be maintained despite us recording lectures. That could be for NPTEL programs and even industry-driven programs where we can practice flipped classroom. I think, but one way in which we could perhaps try out is that we could slowly move to this flipped classroom learning even for our regular courses. I believe that the teacher should still go in the 3 or 4 slots per week to the classroom physically, but we do the lectures recorded through NPTEL or any other means ahead of time, and keep the interaction in the classroom more lively. And I'm sure a lot of ideas can come out of it, right? So I think our average student is certainly very intelligent. So I think that may also stimulate more ideas and maybe more development.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I mean. Literature also shares a lot of these kind of things. The classroom is where they also have the opportunity to interact with a subject expert. See, you being as a teacher, being a subject expert, this is the only time. So that time is very precious, and probably many teachers, even today, we are lecturing, and then even the lectures there are other opportunities to convey that information. So this is what I thought what is your take on that? In coming to the assessment part, we have a very traditional way of doing this assessment part, right? I'm not against traditional part, but what modification? So this quiz 1, quiz 2, and some or typical exam conduct, give mark. but I think that's only a small part of assessing the learning part. What else do you recommend other than this very traditional?
So I think a very challenging question, because we have only very limited time with a student during a semester, and despite see, because even I strongly believe that CGPA is not the only indicator of a student's capability, right?
So why do you think so? So why CGPA is not indicator?
It's not the only indicator.
Okay, okay.
So yeah, a CGPA is certainly an indicator of the student's dedication, right? A person with a high CGPA means he or she has been very meticulous in taking courses and maybe good in almost most of them, right? But what I'm saying is that, like, I want to underline the word only, right? Yeah, it's not the only indicator, because sometimes, you know, like, some students may have challenges in writing exams, right? I think we
That's
encounter
what
students.
yeah, about assessment.
Like, I have seen a few cases, not many, where the student is very good in classroom interaction, right? But the same student, when they write an exam, right, they have difficulties, right? And so that those interactions tell us that there may be some, you know, who may have genuine issues, right? So in writing an exam and then, like, scoring marks,
This
right?
question is so important in this context of inclusive education. Like, there are people have different kinds of students are coming to the classroom, but our assessment is only one direction or one kind of a dimension. So I think that's why I posed that question. As correctly said,
Yeah.
it's time
So
to think about different.
yeah. So see, I don't know how to do it in a theory class, but in the lab component of my courses, right? What we do is that the grading has three components broadly, right? If people show up for the lab, there is a baseline mark,
Okay.
right? If people do the experiment and submit a report, there is some percentage,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And the last significant chunk is also kept for the TA to assess the participation during the lab. That is how they interacted with
Right.
each other in the team and also with the teaching assistant. Right? So I think once again, as I told, I don't know how to do it for a theory class, because
But recently Pratap was also suggesting participation, classroom participation.
national participation, I
Provide,
agree.
yeah.
Yeah, but so this is possible in a practical class, because 2.5 hours, small group, right, which is monitored by one TA. But 50 minutes,
Right.
80, 100 students, right? So if we make it as a policy, the question is that, like, how does the instructor monitor it? Is something we need to think through, right?
Right. A framework has to be developed so that with the help of TAs, probably I think it will still do.
Maybe, perhaps, right, perhaps.
Great.
But I strongly believe that no exam should have a huge chunk of weightage. You know, like, my thought process is that maybe maximum 30-35%. You know, like, even for the final exam.
Right.
We should not have an evaluation mechanism where, let's say, an exam has 60% weightage. You know, like, I'm just throwing out the number 60% arbitrarily,
Right.
just to convey my thought process, right? So I think we should have more gradual evaluation over the semester.
Yeah. I think formative assessment is the like no, that's what people say that in the big as the course progress, right? We as you said suggest we will do the evaluation, but not depending only on one exam. And
Yeah.
so, that is great, Shankar. So we normally do a 30 minutes of this interaction, and we then open up to in our colleagues who are assembled here. Please raise your hand so that I can suggest or monitor to or guide you to interact with the Shankar Ram. Any kind of discussion, comments, questions? Yes, Manoj Kumar, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, thanks for that. So I'm a faculty here at IIT Zanzibar. So I have a question. So when we are teaching to UG student and PG student, suppose the course is same. Maybe it's suppose deep learning course for the UG student and then the same course for the PG student. How our teaching methodology should be different there? We should be, I mean, for the PG, it should be research oriented, or what are your views on that?
Okay. So once again, I would say it may be course specific and instructor specific, right? So even currently, I'm teaching a course where we have our undergraduate students, right, who have come to the master's level, right, and like it is also taken by master's students, right, who are admitted to the MTech program and MS and PhD programs and so on, right. So I typically keep it the same, right. So all these years, I have not followed any separate strategy. I tell them this is the course, but if they have challenges in the background material, like because once again our masters and PhD students may come from different backgrounds, right? So if they have challenges, they come and talk to me. I give them background material, right, which has been prepared over the years, and help them catch up, right? But typically, once again, as I told, I teach mainly based on intuition, right? So I observe, and then like I sort of like maybe if a course correction is required, I just make it, right. But it has worked out well for me, like the course class is the same, the assignments and the exams also I keep the same for both sets of people.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, one more small question. So, suppose there are some students who think that the CGPA doesn't matter, so don't focus much on learning in the course, outside course they will learn. So, how do you usually handle those types of
Ah,
students?
okay. So I think maybe first I should clarify in this forum that I strongly feel CGPA matters, right? So because at the end of the day, that is the only single numerical indicator which is used by the outside world, right? Whether we agree or not, that's a debate we can have. My thought process is it's not the only indicator. Okay, that is the statement which I wanted to make, right? That's point number one. Now, as far as helping students who feel that CGPA matters, once again, I think it's better to have a conversation with them, figure out where they are coming from, right, and also over time, develop or from our own experience, have few use cases or examples to showcase that although it may not matter in the long run, for getting an initial opportunity, it matters. So what do I mean by that? See, many times, even at IIT Madras, there may be some positions for which or some programs for which people may need a baseline CGPA. I'm sure as we spend more time in the programs, we would encounter students who would have fallen short maybe a few decimal places, right? And sometimes the same thing happens in placements and interviews. We could first listen to such students, understand their perspective, and I think to me also it depends on how we convey the message, right? Rather than point blank convey the message, if we can just have a conversation with them and gently convey that, look, yeah, it may not matter 30 years down the line, but right now for you to get a first step, foothold, it matters. So please focus on that. I think it by and large works out.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So Manoj, just one the first question that you asked, the UGPG. So some teachers, I have heard about this, like write this objective of the course, like outcome design for a course, UG course and PG course. Suppose there is a difference in the cognitive level of the course, then based on that, you can probably approach these two as two different way. Suppose the cognitive level for a UG, if you are keeping it like slightly low, and the cognitive level for PG higher. But as Shankaram said, it all depends upon the type of students that you have, the course and the program. But this approach also people use. What are we trying to finally achieve in that course? If it is drastically cognitively different for UG and PG, people take different kind of teaching methods. So, I mean, both styles are around.
Okay. Thanks.
You're from Zanzibar.
Yeah. I'm from
Oh,
Zanzibar.
great. Thank you.
Yeah, I think nice to meet you through this forum.
Thank you.
Others? Saji? Yeah. You're muted. Saji, you're muted.
I am a professor from Department of Aerospace Engineering, rather professor of practice. So I was a chief scientist at NIL Bangalore, and came to the class while coming taking up this option. Classes while taking, I think the Professor Shankar also might have experience, especially for the PG, wherein you have dual degree students. So they will be a light or two steps ahead of before what we talk. So how do we keep them at the same time? The people who are coming with the gate from other colleges uh, to convey the same thing. What I am finding in my two of the classes is that I have to spend more time with the new MTech students to bring them to that level. So any tricks are there to do that?
Yes, sir. I think this is an important point. I think the way I have structured my content over the years, sir, is that like I prepare for the quote unquote average student in my gut feel.
Okay,
So, because to me, like my core dharma is that like to teach everyone, right?
that's
And take everyone along in the classroom, right? So, point number one, I prepare my content and the level of delivery to essentially considering the quote, as I told, quote unquote, average student in the class, right?
okay,
Whom I perceive, and of course, with experience, we get to know what is the level, right? So, of an average student, right? Then, like I think I already touched upon the point, how we can help people who have difficulties, right? We need
that's
to spend more time with them.
interactions. Yeah,
Now, let's go to the other end of the spectrum, right? What the
yeah,
set
light.
you type talked about. I think that's where, sir, I think you will be a good person to do that, right? Because there are processes of practice. We have excellent processes of practice in our department also.
Okay,
While teaching, what I do is that like I connect the theory that I learn to problems which we have solved in the automotive domain in my lab. So
that's
I work in the automotive domain, and that stimulates the interest of these extra talented students. Invariably, after such classes, they come and talk to me,
yeah.
right?
That is
So,
experienced when we give case
so
studies. That's what.
exactly, right? So it's better to keep them engaged. And I tell them, look, let's go through all these things, listen to it, and then you will learn how to do it, right? That
Okay,
way, I felt, once again, it may not be 100% successful, but I think it has worked out, right? So,
thank you.
Yes, Arul, please go ahead. Yeah, followed by Kiran. Yeah.
Shankar
hello, Professor Ravi. Yeah.
is me as a teacher, right? Many times in the TLC. My simple question is, are teachers born or made?
I think I would say in my case, Professor Arul, like I found that I enjoy teaching. That's why I took up this as a profession, right? So I would safely surmise that by and large, a good teacher should be innately born with it, right? That will be my philosophy. That doesn't mean that one cannot learn how to teach, right? So one can still take up an academic question and sort of learn methods and still become a good teacher. But if we are very fortunate and lucky, like what has happened, I would always consider myself fortunate. To be very honest, when I was nearing the end of my PhD, I didn't know what to do, right? I was just going along the flow. Got an opportunity to teach. I felt very happy, right? So even till today, I go by gut feeling and intuition teaching, right? So in fact, that's why I'm very sorry if to Prasad and Rupesh if they are referring to some structured tools, like I may be ignorant about them, right? So because I just go by every semester, every class, I go to the class, I sense, and then I change myself, right? So I think that experience has led me to believe that there should be some level of innate warning. I think, and teaching should come from within, right? That is my thought process.
No, when I joined as faculty, I met a lot of students and I really asked them, say, I want to be a good teacher. Whom should I emulate? So I asked civil engineering students. They all said there was one professor called Matthews. They say, Sir Matthews. I mean, he used to teach a course, I mean, which is called dry something like that, but the students really enjoyed it. I mean, they were telling me, I said, what's good about him? They were saying awesome. It's not awesome. It's not awesome teacher, but they said awesome teacher. I met Matthews. So he was telling me like he had the, I mean, he said it's a calling. He said it's not even a passion. He said I have a calling for teaching, and that he told me, Arul, I love my students. That's it. You can't. So I was thinking that the teachers are usually born. I mean, as we rightly pointed out, of course, there are teachers who have really grew up with, with a lot of picking from others and reading. I have seen people who have enormously, bridged the gap of communicating faculty. Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, so yeah, just Shankar mentioned about this TLC and structured teaching, and we are talking about innate intuitive teaching. So I think there are probably planes, domains where all these things can overlap. So one thing I was thinking is like when we say joy of teaching or teaching, teacher is intuitively doing things. The only worry I have is we are focused on teaching, not the learning part or facilitating the learning part, because we are now completely immersed in how we perform, how we teach, and it's our desire, passion. But how much effective we are becoming. Students may also think that it's all very nice, but how much impact, how much effectiveness is, I don't know. That is what my concern is. So let us hear more. There are more people raising their hand. Kiran, thanks, Arul. Kiran.
Yeah. Hi, Professor Shankar. This is Kiran from Applied Mechanics Department. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah. Yes. So my question is, do you think that there is a diminishing importance of say lab courses, or is it a consequence of what is happening around the world? Like people are more becoming more using computational tools and things like that. So do you see it, or is it only that I'm feeling it?
See, I will say once again, it's maybe a trend or maybe cyclic event, right? So, particularly if we want to work with our hands on hardware labs, we can perceive that there may be a decrease in the interest, but I think that is also an opportunity for us to make it interesting, right? So, because I believe the current set of students, if you give them an experiment which is like very, I'd say, well settled, right? Like what we used to do, right? So we go to a lab, there's an equipment, there's a test process, we take readings, and then like we make some inferences and record in some report, right? That's still needed to learn. But at least a few experiments, if we can make it unstructured, right, and allow them to explore, I think the interest can be picked. So for example, in Indian design, some of the popular labs are where we still have structured experiments, but there are experiments where students take apart things, right, work with their hands, and they just take apart products, and then like learn how each component in a product is supposed to contribute to the overall function of that product, right? That is something which they love. So, for example, in the automotive lab, we ask them to take apart engine components, right, so that they can feel with their own hands how those components are structured and what role they play and so on. Of course, they do structured experiments also, right? So, I believe that a good mix of both of them, would retain student interest, but it is a challenge. I do agree. Okay, to retain interest in conventional labs, right? And one more thing which is important is the growing student size. We have tried out multiple methods, but I think with the increase in the student population, right, what is a reasonable team size, for an experiment is also an important question.
So what do you think a reasonable student size for one experiment, let's say?
I would say 4 to 5, but then I think currently if you look at most departments, we may end up doing 8 to 10, right? Then the question is, should we have 2 batches, right? That increases our time which we spend on teaching the lab, right? Yeah. Anyway, it's an
Okay. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Balaji raised his hand, but now I'm not seeing. Balaji, are you around? Otherwise,
Send the question as a message. Please read it.
okay, great. Let me just see that.
Am I audible?
It's Anindita, but
Yes.
Balaji is here. Yeah, please. Yeah.
Hi, sir.
Good evening, sir.
So, unexpected participant in your session.
Okay.
Very nice to listen to you. Very interesting. And I want to check with you if you take, people say decade, and decade is too long a period. I think you have got 20, 25 years, this thing. If you take every 5 years as one segment, what kind of change you are seeing in the learning of the student side? And as a teacher, same subject you are teaching, I think control or vehicle dynamics. So what is the, if you recall your first 5 years, and now what is the current year, what change you brought? Because the pointed question, when I was a student, I don't want to tell the institution or the teacher is a very learned teacher. He was using the same lecture notebook for 20 years. And all the senior and this thing, anybody is there, he is showing the same class, same note, same thing, and the same, even question also being same. So this is the thing, a pointer to check with you, sir.
So
my name is Balaji. I am a professor of practice under Professor Shankar, who initiated me to be part of this team, engineering design department. I worked in Ashok Leyland for about 38, 40 years. Suddenly I he transformed me as a teaching professional, right? Thanks to Professor Shankar.
I think, sir, to begin with, you are one of my gurus, right? So I'm learning from you, right? So I think it's a joy to interact with you. But I think it's an interesting question. I will go to the second part, sir, because that's easier for me to answer, right? The first part is a challenge. That is, let's say we take chunks of 5 years, right? How I have changed, right? Particularly in the core courses which I teach, I have moved away from being very theoretically focused to being more practice oriented. The concepts are still the same, but I think I give more importance to connecting the concept to practice, right? Particularly in the automotive domain in which we work, right? From experience which is gained, right? And teach from that perspective, right? Of course, there's still theory, but the manner in which it's presented has changed, right? So previously, let's say when I started off, I would just go to the board and start writing equations right away, right? But now I give a preamble, I explain the context, physics, the situations in which that will be applicable, and then present the details, right? So I think that is one change which has certainly happened, and I believe that's where research and teaching go together, sir. I think that is one case, Balaji sir, where I have personally experienced what you are telling, right? A teacher having the same notes, because traditionally we were known to be teaching institutions, right? I'm not talking about IIT Madras now, but still there are a lot of teaching institutions there, right? There, if I am employed in one of those teaching institutions without getting an opportunity to do research, I would also end up using the same notes, right? For 20 years, because that's what I know. But here, doing both research and teaching together really helps us, because it completes a loop, right? Now, coming to the first part of the question, I believe that once again, now today's students have a lot of options. They can get a lot of information from other sources. So I think if we have to retain their interest, particularly, I think, what even Professor Saji brought up, right? Even the top people, right? The top students, and keeping their interest. we should be good practitioners through research. Like we should be sharing those case studies and telling them, look, this is not, I want to say, available in the open domain, but we did it. And whatever I'm going to teach you will help you do such things, right? I think there has been a steady transition because the amount of information which is available to the students has tremendously increased. So we need to also evolve to keep them interested.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. GK?
Yes, please. Let me just turn this on. Hi, Shankar. Nice to hear you. Congratulations on your Marty award, Marty Subramania Award.
Thank you.
This is more of a addition to the discussion that resulted from Arul's question about. I have a few points to make there based on experience. I believe if I agree with you that there are a lot of talents. I think teaching is also a talent. If the talent could be natural or it could be developed. A person with a natural talent is, I believe, wired differently. Okay, and I would not any day. Just a second, it's asking me something here. Not okay. I would not any day compete with a person with a natural talent in any aspect. Okay, if I'm so let's say playing or dancing or singing and so on and so forth. If a person has a natural talent, that person is at a different level to begin with. Okay, so I believe that in other words, the effectiveness becomes a lot more easier for a person with talent than a person without that much. I mean, than a person without talent, let's say, to just take the two ends. However, it doesn't mean that people cannot become talented or become at least partly talented and so on and so forth through effort. You can always put in that's where the 10,000 rule and things like that come in, I believe. A person with a talent, certainly, the person looks at things very differently. And the person may not be able to communicate the way exactly how the person is looking at things. That is one. So that is one aspect that I wanted to bring. I think there are two other aspects or one other aspect. The other thing is, in terms of the structured aspects and intuitive aspects, I believe most naturally talented teachers are intuitive. Because they look at things in their own way, which makes the most sense to them. However, if we go and check whether whatever we are doing based on our intuitive aspects has been done or not, most have been done. Education is a very old field. Most have been done. Most have been rigorously done, documented. And so we learn so much from it if we go and pick up things. That's where things come in. And the third point is that for people without a natural talent, the structured aspect works very well. If they are willing to submit themselves to the structural aspect, many don't have the talent, but don't want to go anything beyond their limited intuitive aspects. If they consciously build in structural aspects into their learning, facilitation of learning, that's all I don't call it teaching at all. Facilitation of learning process, I think they'll be a lot more effective, but very few people do that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think thanks for sharing, sir. I realized point number 2 during this interaction, right? So I realized that I am ignorant of the structured tools with even Prasad was talking about, right? So I think you're right. I'm also realizing that whatever I may be doing out of intuition, right? There have been a lot of studies and already TLC, Prasad, Rupesh would be aware of structured methods, right? Which would, I think, is also important from the learner's perspective. I think that's a very important point which Prasad mentioned, right? So it's,
I believe the learner's perspective is the only perspective, but that's my belief.
I agree. So because see, even if you ask me, the way I evaluate learner's perspective may be different. Once again, it's a gut feel, intuition. I observe them and then do that. But maybe there are, I would say, well-established methods and metrics, perhaps, right? Which also would be helpful, right?
Which are actually evidence-based. Therefore, they will work all the time. They've been proved to work all the time.
So I also like.
Sorry, sir. No.
The voice is breaking.
I liked Suresh Kumar's second point.
Okay.
So thank you very much.
Sure, thank you. So we will. So there's a last question from Anindita. She is in a noisy place, so I can't talk. But the question is, then the chat box. Do you teach elective courses? How do you handle the situation when the student is in the class just for attendance in an elective course with little interest in learning?
Okay. So once again, I think I used to teach elective courses, but the elective course became a core course. Like so over a period of time. My thought process on elective course is that like an elective course is taken either by student interest, right? Particularly at the master's and PhD level, it is not because they have been allotted that elective course by seat, right? Because right now, if a student comes to an elective course at the MTech, MS, PhD level or MSc level, it's by their own choice, right? They either continue to do it or they don't continue. So if they continue to do it, I would assume that they want to do it, right? Yeah, BTech dual degree is a challenge, right? Because sometimes through seat or some other mechanism, they may not get the choice that they want, right? So once again, I believe that we should, my thought process remains the same. If we have a class of 100, I even openly tell the class at the beginning itself, right? I don't expect all 100 to be really interested in the course all the time, right? So, but if over the course of that course, if I manage to even keep a reasonable number of people interested and also make some people gain interest in that course because they took the course not of their own choice, but of not having an option, I believe I have done the job. Once again, I think I'm very sorry. I'm talking very intuitively. Like I don't have metrics to do that, but then like essentially that's the way I handle it. Right?
So there's a follow-up question also. She's
So
asking second question, right? Institute universities always reward people with high H index more than teachers with higher TCF.
Absolutely.
What is your take on?
So I think see if you want my personal opinion, of course. Now I'm giving strictly my personal opinion, right? So I of course uh, there can be two things. One is a transactional and one is a philosophical answer, right? So coming first to the transactional answer, I think in any career progression or any other evaluation of it, professor, I believe that both teaching and research should be taken together. Like in what sense, in what proportion, what are the mechanisms? I think one need to evolve, right? That said, like if we look at rewards, quote unquote, if we are looking at awards, I think there are awards for both teaching and also research, right? I think people can choose, but I believe that Anindita's question may be related to I'm guessing, right? Perhaps to like moving on from, let's say, assistant to associate and associate to full professor, right? That is the context. I strongly believe that both should be considered, right? The evaluation should not be done only on research, right? With teaching, like as a given, right? It should be done for both, right? That is my personal opinion. And the philosophical opinion is that, like, once again, please excuse me for my personal thought. I believe that we should teach for our own sake, right? So for our own happiness. I think that's been my, if someone asks me to state my philosophy, I think we should enjoy and we should be happy, like with that, right? So I think if it gives us the joy, that itself is a reward, right? So I think there is a philosophical answer, right? I hope, Anindita, I have answered the first part of the question.
Right? She said yes. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it is time to wind up the show. Thank you very much, Shankar.
Sure. Thank you.
For sharing your intuitive thoughts. And I think it's important to say that, yes, teaching, the best reward is the joy that we derive out of this particular profession. And it's important that we keep all options open and then see which way is working and better for the benefit of the learner. So thank you once again. Thank you very much. And thank you for all the colleagues joined in this session. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Prasad. Thank you, Rupesh and TLC. Thanks to everyone for taking